inspection, forensics experts now say that those remains they believe belong to soldiers in the Iraq-Iran war from 1980 to 1988. Linda, back to you.
William Legend is live from Kuwait City. William, thank you very much. Quick commercial break, but before we get there, I'm sorry to report that we have lost another American journalist embedded with our troops. He was a colleague of mine for many years and a friend. NBC News correspondent David Bloom died today while covering the war in Iraq. His death was actually not related to combat. Doctors say that he suffered a pulmonary embolism, which is a clot in his lung. He was embedded with a unit about 25 miles south of Baghdad when he suddenly collapsed. He was the co-anchor of the weekend edition of the Today Show since March of last year. He also provided excellent reporting from the front. And before he worked on the Today Show, he was NBC's White House correspondent. David Bloom, a friend. He was only 39 years old. Our sympathies to his wife and 3 young daughters.
Even in the beginning, we were building some of the most technologically advanced cars in the world. We still are.
Now, non-drowsy allergy medicine you can take right when you need it. Alavert. It starts dissolving the instant it touches your tongue without water. So you can take Alavert wherever you are for non-drowsy relief. New Alavert. Allergy medicine right when you need it, wherever you are.
During cancer treatment, Elizabeth could only watch from the sidelines. Today, her cancer is in remission, and she's ready to play.
Elizabeth is one of millions of children with hope because of Children's Miracle Network. We are the alliance of premier children's hospitals dedicated to serving all children. Your support can make miracles happen.
Place where I like to prove things for myself. So what I do is make sure I notice the details of life. And I laugh as much as possible. I never accept second best or live in the past. At some point in life, you learn that being happy is about making a choice to be happy.
Trilogy, a community where dreams take flight.
Minutes after the hour. One of the key missions for some of our troops in this war is finding any sites of WMD, weapons of mass destruction. We have Fox's Julie Kurtz working on that story. She's live in Washington. Julie?
Hi, Linda. Well, the U.S. launched the war against Iraq, vowing to disarm Saddam Hussein of the forbidden weapons. U.S. military officials said today coalition forces have not found chemical or biological weapons in Iraq yet. But the majority of Americans at this point in the war say it doesn't matter. Saddam still needs to be forced out, even without a smoking and chemical gun, if you will. This week's Los Angeles Times poll found more than 75% of Americans say they support the decision to go to war, and more than 80% say they will still back the military action even if coalition forces don't find weapons of mass destruction. Now, on the ground in Iraq, only hints of weapons programs have turned up, things like gas masks and chemical suits. Today, Marines are investigating a suspected weapons site from the 1991 Gulf War, but there's no word yet on what they found following a nighttime raid along the Tigris River in the town of Salman Pak. On Friday in western Iraq near Mutasis, special forces discovered bottles of a chemical agent used in the 1940s, but Central Command said the site was a training school, not a weapons facility. Today, American officials played down the search for the banned weapons. Briefing reporters, General Vincent Brooks said as U.S. troops move into Baghdad, there will be more potential weapon sites to investigate.
While we can't say where they may have been moved to, we certainly anticipate that there have been deliberate efforts to bury, hide, move, disperse. All these efforts that were part of the denial and deception campaign.
Defense Department officials say the Iraqi people will be the ones to lead U.S. forces to the banned weapons once they are no longer afraid of Saddam Hussein. As you can imagine, Linda, the view from the Arab world is somewhat different. An Arab news editorial published today said if coalition forces cannot produce these weapons, they will have lost their main reason for attacking Saddam in the first place. Linda, back to you.
Julie Kurtz, live in Washington. Julie, thank you very much. Right now, about 700 fighters from the exiled Iraqi National Congress are on the ground near Nasiriyah to help the coalition topple Saddam Hussein's regime and, of course, get aid to the Iraqi people. But will the help of these forces, the Kurdish forces who have been helping us and the Iraqi National Congress, both of them, cause Saddam's toughest and most resistant forces to fold at a faster pace? Joining us now from Philadelphia is National Security and Intelligence Analyst Ed Trzanski. Ed, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Linda.
All right, so first question. I'm not going to repeat that. It was long. Do you think that the work of these Iraqis will help us?
It certainly is going to help us in terms of winning over hearts and minds. And we have done a spectacular job in terms of the intelligence and military work. We will be the ones to do the disarming. But the key is to get the cooperation and win the confidence of the people of Iraq. And that's why it's critical for us to get Iraqis on the ground. People who look like Iraqis, sound like Iraqis, speak the language, know the people. This is going to all help us raise confidence levels so that we'll get the kind of cooperation we need to identify areas where weapons are stored and also to root out these Fedayeen and other Republican Guard and Ba'ath Party elements that have to be eliminated for Iraq to be able to stand on its own 2 feet the day after the military occupation has ended so that they can reconstitute themselves as a stable state.
Let me ask you about one of the successes of this day, which is the taking of what is believed to be a terrorist training facility near Baghdad called Samanpak, and I am sure that you have spent years studying that particular facility. There have been reports that look at it both ways. Some say that it is, it's a really bad place. It's a source of a lot of trouble. Others would say, well, it may be overblown. Based on your own studies, what do you think we're going to find?
No, I don't think it's overblown, and it's part of the logistical support that the regime had provided to a variety of terrorist organizations, much as John Lehman said with you a couple moments ago. We have to keep in mind that the Iraqis have a long record of supporting terrorist organizations and acting in concert where there is common cause. And the common cause usually is opposition to the United States and U.S. interests. If not here in the United States, then certainly around the world. So it all fits into a pattern of conduct and behavior, and we have to be patient because now that we have troops on the ground, especially in Baghdad, we'll be pulling information out.
When you say we have to be patient, some people would like to say, we're going to find it next week. As soon as the war ends, well then, a week later we'll be able to find the goods. But do you think it might take more like months?
We will find it when we find it. This is the sort of thing that, Linda, up until this point, we have not allowed ourselves to work on anyone else's timetable. The President has made clear that we do this at the time and place of our choosing. This has been a very methodical campaign that's been laid out by General Franks. It's working according to plan. And as we go along, we will uncover more information. We will put it to use in preventing or preempting terrorist attacks against this country. And over time, we will take that information, incorporate it into other pieces of information that come from around the world, and it will help in terms of American national security and the security of our allies throughout the world. But again, we will do this according to our pace, not responding to anyone else's timetable.
A question from your terrorism expert point of view about what is happening in Baghdad. We understand from coalition officials that we basically established a loose perimeter. We continue these probing missions inside the city. But in terms of committing terrorist acts, or maybe in military terms you'd call it guerrilla attacks against coalition forces, do you think there's still a considerable concern of that?
There certainly is, and there ought to be. There's 3 different kinds of operations we're trying to do at one time within Baghdad and really the whole country. First is fighting conventional war. Second is fighting against guerrilla war. And third is to provide humanitarian assistance. So we certainly have to keep our guard up. What is especially impressive about the Baghdad operation is how we've used special forces and real-time intelligence through the technical superiority that we have in terms of eyes in the, and ears in the sky, satellites, drone surveillance, air surveillance, all of the national technical means we have, so that we could coordinate real-time, lightning-quick strikes to go in and out of targets of opportunity and not sit there as sitting ducks for reprisal. It's not the sort of quagmire you've heard people pulling long faces about time and time again. This is a very smart way to fight an entrenched foe, and over time we are winning. And if you'll note, Linda, whenever the Pentagon describes this operation, it used to say that we are degrading the capabilities of the adversary. Now they're saying flat out we're destroying their capabilities.
Now, in terms of, when we have to get to cleaning up what remains of the Ba'ath Party offices and people who are still hiding out and so on and so on, how lenient do you think we should be in terms of the battle between trying to win hearts and minds and also exert the kind of control that we need to exert to keep a very fractious city and entire country together?
Linda, it's an excellent question, because the problem we have is with the dead enders, those people who were part of the Ba'ath Party terror network, who had just ruled over these people in a ruthless fashion. They do not have good prospects, and if they don't fight us, and let's say they're apprehended, they're turned over to whatever government takes over the day after, they will not treat them very well. And if they're caught by the people of Iraq, there's going to be rough justice administered on the street. So in terms of mop-up, what is very critical for us to do in order to help the people of Iraq and the new government that takes over is to make sure that we root out as many elements of the Ba'ath Party control structure as possible. And there are 6 different structures that were used by Saddam's regime to maintain control over the people of Iraq. Each of these is now systematically being picked apart by coalition forces using real-time intelligence and the support of the CIA and its paramilitary activities. So a lot of that mop-up that we thought would take place after the fighting is over is actually happening right now, and in terms of long-term prospects, that is good for the people of Iraq.
Still, it's a lot of work. Ed Trzanski, intelligence and terrorism analyst, thank you very much.
Thanks, Linda.
Still to come in the next half hour of our continuing coverage of Operation Iraqi Freedom. For the first time during the war, an American airplane has landed in the city of Baghdad. We've got the latest on what's happening at the airport formerly known as Saddam International, as well as the mission to secure Baghdad itself. Central Command is saying the city is just about closed off. We're going to go through some scenarios, asking what our troops are looking at in the battle for Baghdad in the next couple of days. And what happens once Saddam is finally gone? The White House and our allies trying to decide how to proceed once the military's work is done. The UN now wants a piece of this pie. We're going to talk about post-war plans along with all the latest on the mission at hand.
It's true. They feel like that, that situation is going to be handled. I've heard speculation that there's 2 or 3 different folks or two or three different factions waiting in the wing once this thing is over, trying to take over.
That'd be a sad, but there's a possibility. Look, I'm optimistic that when given a chance, especially after the tyranny that these people have suffered under in Iraq and this regime for such a long time.
And as far as the mood is concerned, I think it's very, very tense now, and obviously there's a high risk for civilian casualties here.
Are you seeing a lot of aircraft in the area?
Seeing is impossible, but we can hear them fairly regularly, yes.
So exactly how many tanks, how many troops do you see?
Well, I have a visual of 2 tanks right now. Troops, there were maybe 6 or 8 soldiers running around the river bank. Everything else right behind there begins a very dense forest of palm trees, and there's a lot of fighting going on inside there, I would presume.
Can you tell me the resistance? Where is it coming from, if you can tell?
From within. I can't give you positions.
Okay. Again, from the from Reuters, 2 U.S. tanks smashed into a presidential palace compound in central Baghdad on Monday, bringing the 19-day-old war into the heart of the Iraqi capital. A Reuters witness said 2 tanks were in the presidential compound. The Reuters correspondent said from a vantage point about 500 meters away from a main palace of President Saddam Hussein. Is that about where you are, Chris? Well, it would appear we have lost Chris Yumpelt. Once again, you're looking at images from Lebanese TV. The story that is breaking at this hour, tanks are in the center of Baghdad. Somewhere out there is also our embedded correspondent, Greg Kelly, who is in the thick of the fight, who has reported to us from that presidential palace, about 45 minutes ago. We're hoping to hear from him again. You see some kind of vehicle on fire. The resistance is said to be at times heavy. There you see, there they are on the left, just above our banner, 2 tanks. Those appear to be U.S. tanks. Those are U.S. tanks in the center of Baghdad. Allison, a lot going on. I'll throw it back to you for now.
There sure is, Brian. Thank you. I want to bring Stephen Brill back into this conversation. You know, if in fact, as we were talking about, this war that we're watching unfold right now, if the genesis of it was September 11th, some people say, wait a second, Osama bin Laden was responsible for September 11th. Why are we now attacking Saddam Hussein? What do you say to those people?
Well, I think you have to separate the specifics of Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein and come back to the point that I was trying to make before, which is a change in attitude. And that is that we're not going to be victims. We're not going to be passive. And I think everything we're seeing suggests that the country's mood, certainly the leadership of the country's mood, has changed. And we're not going to wait for something to happen. I think the president's articulated that. And whether you agree with that or don't agree with that, that's the reality that, that is driving this policy and that is driving much of what we're doing at home. You know, a lot of us are inconvenienced now when we walk into office buildings. A lot of us are inconvenienced when we travel. And that's because we've had to take steps, and we're going to have to take more steps.
And if we're not going to be victims anymore, and we're not going to be passive, if that's what we were before September 11th, does that mean that now all countries who may harbor terrorists are now on our hit list?
I'm not sure they're on our hit list. I'm sure they're on our list of places we're concerned about and that we're going to take proactive action, whether that action is diplomatic, whether that action is trade sanctions. We're not going to wait for the shoe to drop. And I think the same thing is true at home, that we're not only much more vigilant, but we're out there looking for people who mean us harm, because the terrible secret that we began to understand on September 11th is that there are people who can be living very quietly among us who are waiting to spring into action. And what worries me about what's going on overseas is that even as we roll up these terror organizations on the other side of the world, they will have already planted people here. And that's why we're on orange alert. That's why we're doing all kinds of very specific things when we're on an orange alert. And what I try to explain in the book are the ways in which that's made us stronger, the ways in which we're still vulnerable, and most of all, it's a story of people really doing a lot of things to make us safer, making a lot of tough decisions. Sometimes they make the wrong decisions. More often than not, they're making the right decisions, but they are standing up. They're not simply saying, well, this bad thing happened to us, you know, we hope something else doesn't happen to us.
Okay, Stephen Brill, author of After: How America Confronted the September 12th Era. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's go back down to Washington and Brian Wilson.
As we continue to look at pictures from Lebanese TV that show a lot of activity in the center of Baghdad, just a very brief recap. The Army's 3rd ID has entered the central part of Baghdad, has taken one of Saddam Hussein's presidential palaces in the center of the city. There are smoke fires that have been lit. U.S. tanks have been seen, and there has been some fighting, although it's been reported to be light to heavy, depending on the location. More heavy downtown. Our Greg Kelly in the thick of things, also monitoring the situation from the Pentagon. Mike Emanuel. Mike, what are you hearing over there?
Well, Brian, we've been asking folks here at the Pentagon if this is the battle for Baghdad. Some here suggesting that basically this is a planned operation, that they had military objectives they wanted to achieve, that this is also a psychological operation, basically trying to convince the people of Baghdad that Saddam Hussein's regime is going down and that coalition forces can basically come and go as they please going into the heart of Baghdad. Of course, you know, the Iraqi people have seen a lot of these taped presentations of Saddam Hussein on television in recent days, or have been made aware that Saddam Hussein is appearing on television, that there have been read messages from Saddam Hussein on Iraqi television. And so basically the coalition wants to convince these people who have been living under Saddam Hussein's dictatorship for so many years, in fear for so many years, that his days are numbered, his regime is going down, and here are our tanks in broad daylight going through downtown Baghdad, and they feel like that kind of message, you know, conveyed through word of mouth through the Iraqi people will certainly help the operation and convince people that they don't have to live in fear any longer. So is this the battle for Baghdad? Nobody wants to say for sure on the record. Some people say perhaps it is the battle for Baghdad, and that once they are firmly in control of the city, then they'll come out and say, well, we just had the battle for Baghdad and we won. So at this point, we're getting mixed messages here, nobody wanting to say for sure that this is the battle for Baghdad, but they say that there is a lot to be gained by our forces being on the ground in Baghdad, for one, convincing the Iraqi people that Saddam Hussein and his regime's days are numbered. Brian?
Mike, we are quoting someone who is apparently in Baghdad or near Baghdad. The wire services are saying that the other day, I guess it was Saturday, was just a foray, and he goes on to say this is the real deal. This incursion is for real. What do you make of that statement?
Well, Brian, we've been told here at the Pentagon to trust what the embedded reporters are telling us, that what they're seeing was going to be real-time action, and that what they were reporting would be probably the best information we could get. Greg Kelly's telling us that he's in the heart of Baghdad. He's in a presidential compound. That speaks volumes here at the Pentagon. That means that this is pretty serious if they really have gone into the heart of Baghdad. And so perhaps the information, or without a doubt the information that we're getting from Greg and perhaps Colonel Oliver North and perhaps Rick Leventhal at this hour is the best information we can go with. But it certainly sounds like this is the real deal, that there are some serious operations going on the ground in Baghdad, and that perhaps this is the battle to take out Saddam Hussein's regime and convince everybody inside Iraq that it's over for Saddam and his henchmen.
All right, Mike Emanuel, once again, we're going to monitor what's going on with our sister news operation, Sky News. Correspondent David Chater is in downtown Baghdad. We may mix the pictures up, but you'll be listening to the voice of David Chater and the anchors of Sky News as you look at pictures from Lebanese TV. Let's listen in.
Take on the bridges and secure a crossing, a bridgehead across to the eastern side of the Tigris, where I am at the moment. And they'll have to do that perhaps in the next few hours. Perhaps this is the beginning of the end for the battle of control of the center of Baghdad, or it might be another one of these occasions where they decide that they don't have enough forces to hold back any reinforcements, any counterattack. They've demonstrated what they can do. Maybe they'll spend a few hours here, keep the defenders at bay, and then withdraw under the cover of their air cover back to their positions surrounding the whole of the capital at the moment. But judging by the sound of that firefight, the smoke drifting above me at the moment, there's a fierce fight going on. Perhaps they might even be trying to go across the bridges, or maybe there's a counterattack going in across the bridges. But this is a pretty exposed position. There's smoke everywhere now. You begin to see it billowing behind me, perhaps if you can move slightly. It's really blowing in now. It's really getting dark here. This is the smoke from the oil reservoir they've ignited. The smell of cordite as well, the smell of explosives mixed with that. You can hear the firefight going on at the moment. I don't know whether that's the Americans skirmishing forward or the counterattackers going in to try and take on the armoured column. Literally there you see the fog of war in front of you. The sound of jets, the sound of airstrikes going in as well at the moment. Very difficult for me to see what's going on, but there's an awful lot that I can hear at the moment, and it's right next to me. And it does sound like there's a fierce firefight going on at the moment. Maybe it isn't a counterattack, an attempt by the Iraqi defenders of the city to take on the tank column. It does sound like a firefight going on there at the moment. It's not just Kalashnikovs, not just light rounds, weapons rounds or machine guns. Some pretty heavy caliber machine guns now being used a few hundred yards away from me, I think, aimed out at the armored column, but perhaps also it might be this way, so perhaps it might be wise for me pretty soon to take cover.
David, of course, do that as soon as you feel it's appropriate. We're just hearing from the Pentagon they will not confirm that this is the battle for Baghdad, but US officials have declared Baghdad cut off from the rest of Iraq. I don't really need to tell you that, do I?
Well, no, just take a look around you, take a look at what's happening here. The smoke is enveloping the whole of this building. I can now hardly see what's happening across the bank of the Tigris River, but there are American tanks there. There's an awful lot happening here. There's a little wind whipping up the dust as well, just to add to the sense of confusion. The sound of gunfire, heavy rounds. It might be the case that the Iraqi defenders on this side of the Tigris are bringing up reinforcements and pouring in fire against that column of armored American armor on the opposite side of the bank to us. But you've got reports that they've taken over the presidential complex a few hundred yards from where I stand. They've taken over the Ministry of Information, where I report from. Both of those areas can control the approaches to bridges across the Tigris River to the eastern bank where I'm standing. So a crucial part of the city to control. And once you can cross those bridges and establish a presence, an armed presence here, an armed presence here, then you've essentially taken hold and a grip on the very center of power, the very center of Baghdad itself.
David, we can hear a lot of chatter behind you. Is that, would you describe it as panic or anger?
No, that's just up here like me trying to work out what's happening. It could be pretty exposed here, and I don't think, frankly, Simon, it's wise for me to carry on talking to you here anymore. There is a large battle going on right next to me, and I think I better start taking cover.
David, you go and your team go. Thank you for bringing us up to date. We'll be talking to you later.
Well, you've been watching our sister news operation, Sky News, and correspondent David Chater, who in his characteristically understated British way, talking about the battle that is going on near him. Apparently, he feels at this time it's time for him to abandon that position. We certainly understand that. Tremendous pictures of downtown Baghdad. Recap a couple of things have crossed the wires in the last few minutes. According to Colonel David Perkins, he apparently told his troops before the operation began that the mission was intended to be, quote, a dramatic show of force. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to stop what we're doing. Greg Kelly's on the video phone. Greg, what can you tell me?
Roger, coming.
Greg Kelly?
Hey, do you guys hear me? Yeah, Colonel Perkins is right. This was a dramatic show of force. Are you with me? Fix the camera. We're on right now. Okay, here's the deal. We are at Saddam Hussein's main palace in the city of Baghdad. We got here about 40 minutes ago. Troops are in there right now securing this main presidential palace in downtown Baghdad. We came in early this morning, roughly about 6:30 or so. There are other units now securing other key points in this city, both symbolic and strategic in nature. The presidential reviewing stand is is basically surrounded by the 3rd Infantry Division. The Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, another presidential palace in Baghdad, also surrounded, as this one is. Troops now going through room to room, searching it. As we came in here, not much resistance to our armed convoy. We actually were inside the palace itself about 20 minutes ago. We went up to about the 2nd floor, scouted out a little bit. There's a lot of debris in there. This thing was clearly hit in a coalition airstrike, maybe the first one on that Wednesday some 2.5 weeks ago. A lot of debris, but generally the building is intact, and it is quite an ornate scene. Marble floors, tiles on the top. We have gold chandeliers. Colonel Perkins, do me a favor. Can you come here for a second? This is Colonel David Perkins, 2nd Brigade Commander. Sir, you brought the team here. We've got this palace apparently surrounded. What else is going on, and what does it mean?
We have one company from a tank battalion here. What we have in the city now is the entire armor brigade. We have the rest of this battalion is securing this palace, as well as one further down the road, the 14 July Monument. We're securing the bridge that goes over the peninsula, where a lot of the high officials reside, and a lot of reinforcements were coming over. I have another battalion who's securing the rest of the center of the city, the Al Rashid Hotel, the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, the parade field, the VIP seating area, et cetera, like that, and all the major governmental buildings. So right now, we really have control of the center of Baghdad and what is the heart of his governmental structure.
You control the city. Are we going to stay here?
We'll continue to develop the situation. We'll see what our tactical requirements are and how they fit into the overall situation. There's a lot of ways that we can control this ground. There's a lot of ways we can control entrance and exits, and so there's many things that will go into that decision. We will probably continue to move around, not be stationary, so that it's an evolving situation.
You were probably the first American commander inside Saddam Hussein's presidential palace. What are you thinking?
I'll tell you, it is a testament to the American soldier, what they have done to get here. We have been fighting nonstop contact for about the last 17 days, moved 500 to 600 miles with all these vehicles, sustained numerous casualties, overcome just almost insurmountable odds, crossing the Euphrates multiple times, moving all the equipment through fairly untrafficable terrain. And now you can see a bunch of American soldiers standing at the entrance to the palace. I think it's a testament to the capability of the United States Army.
Do you feel like we've won at this point, or is victory still a couple of days away? How close are you to wrapping this thing up?
Tactically, we obviously have crushed his armed resistance, and the American soldier has been victorious from that point of view. There's obviously a lot of political restructuring that has to occur. Our desire is that by us now occupying the city, we're already working with the locals to show that we don't mean them any harm. We want to get the city back up and running, that they will see that we are here for their benefit, and the sooner the Iraqi people take control of their own country and get things back up and running, I think that will define total victory.
Well, it's amazing to be talking to you, Colonel, from Saddam Hussein's front yard, literally his front yard. That's where we're coming to you from. As the Colonel said, other elements of the brigade are securing other key sites in this city. It's a whole new war. Guys?
Greg, let me ask you about the trip in. Talk about what you saw, talk about the fighting you experienced, and tell me what's going on around you now.
The trip in, we met some resistance, but it was fairly moderate compared to what we saw 2 days ago and what we've seen in the past. Some of our forward elements were heavily engaged. Sir, any more on the trip in here? It seemed like, compared to what we've seen before, it wasn't as bad.
I think we're just getting sensitized to bad. As you know, we were shot at multiple times with RPGs. What we found, though, was that we had come in the other day and started to clear the route and really set the conditions to come in here. He had come back and reinforced that. We saw new minefields across the highways, had dug up the highways with tank ditches, had dug new fighting positions, new anti-tank positions, and had strengthened positions that previously weren't strengthened. So he clearly did not want us here today. He knew that we were going to come back, but obviously his efforts failed. And again, the American soldier has proven his capability.
Now the situation here feels fairly secure, but there's still a lot of firing going on, a little bit closer to downtown. Tanks are still engaged. What is their status right now?
Again, when you say fairly secure, we've come to mean that no one is shooting within 10 feet of you, I guess, is secure. You can hear the artillery, the close air support going off in the tanks. We still have resistance throughout the city, and that's exactly what we're doing now. We're taking our armored forces and pushing all the way through and completely securing this so that we have freedom of maneuver within the city, and more importantly, that we then can allow the city to get back to normal operations.
All right, Colonel Perkins, thank you very much. I think Captain Ives needs you over there. It's kind of astounding to be coming to you from Saddam Hussein's own house, at least one of them. He has 8 to 12 throughout the country and multiple sites in Baghdad, but this is one of the main presidential palaces, very close to downtown, right off, I'm sorry, Qadisiyah Expressway, one of the main thoroughfares in Baghdad. Brian?
Greg, just one quick question, and I'm going to let Allison Camerata jump in here for a couple of questions. How long do you think you can stay there and keep operating?
That's a good question. We asked the colonel. He said that that depends on basically higher headquarters and their desire. But it looks like we could stay here for quite a while. We do have a lot of tanks, a lot of Bradley fighting vehicles. We have set up other permanent positions with less than this before. I have a feeling the intent might be to stick around and secure a supply train through the route that we just came up so we can get supplies and ammunition and that kind of thing, and an air of permanence.
Oh, we have lost our signal.
Still going room to room in there.
It's back. It's back now. Greg Kelly, I see the stars and stripes behind you there. That's kind of an interesting sight. Well, we are experiencing some difficulty with our satellite feed out of the presidential palace. Let me just tell you, while we try to reestablish, you are seeing exclusive pictures.
Hey guys,
this is the only place you can see these pictures. Yes, we can hear you, Greg. Go ahead. Greg?
Yeah, we're still up. It's on TV.
Greg, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Guy running up the flag.
You are seeing in the background the presidential palace in downtown Baghdad. You saw just a moment ago U.S. soldiers carrying the stars and stripes, the flag of America, about to be hoisted over that presidential palace in Baghdad. Greg Kelly is our embedded reporter. Greg, can you hear me? Well, we'll just let Greg go about his business there for a while and try to reestablish with him here. But look at this picture. Astonishing images coming by video phone from the very center of Baghdad. Fox News is the only place you will see this. You've just heard Greg Kelly report that U.S. forces are in control of the presidential palace. For the moment, they plan to stay. It's a tactical situation. It could change. But for the moment, they seem to be setting up base inside this presidential compound. The goal here was to show Saddam Hussein that they can move at will through his city without being seriously challenged. Greg Kelly says the trip in was light to heavy resistance. We can hear gunfire in the background. There is an ongoing battle in the city of Baghdad. But these are exclusive pictures seen only on Fox News of the presidential palace in Baghdad, where our correspondent Greg Kelly is reporting. Greg, can you hear me? Brad Baker is someone we should talk to right now while we continue to look at these pictures. He is a former Army Ranger. He's coming to us from Atlanta. Brad, as you see what's going on there, what are your thoughts?
My first thought is it's hard to follow that act right there. I mean, we've just made history right now. We just had a colonel and a live news reporter stand on the presidential grounds and just announce to the world, hey, guess what? We told you we'd be here, now we're here. This is just such a psychological blow to the Iraqis, to their armies and their Republican guards. We said we were going to do this, and we've just now done it. And if the people of the world don't understand what a great achievement we just accomplished, I don't know what else will send a message. But it's interesting to see that they did this right in the middle of the day. There's no propaganda that can be spun against this. I mean, all the TV stations are picking it up. We're there, and we're now starting to clear it out. I don't think that this was just some probing mission. As you can tell now, there was a lot of question about this. We're in there now, and we're going to start occupying it, and we're going to start doing, there's several follow-on missions, I'm sure, to come up. But I don't think we're probing anymore. I think that we're in, and we're in for the fight now.
What do you think the top priority is?
Well, the top priority is to secure the area. You're going to need to go through and clear those buildings. You're going to need to look to make sure that they haven't been booby-trapped. And then you're going to have to start securing the perimeter because there's going to be a counterattack. It's just, as you heard the colonel say, when they probed it the first time, they came back the second time and found that they had reworked the road, put in mines, dug ditches. There's going to be a counterattack here, and the soldiers are getting ready for it. I'm sure they're taking up fighting positions. I'm sure they're laying out maps and coordinates and sectors and getting ready for to call in air support in the event that they need to do that.
All right, let me bring in Allison Camerata, my colleague. Allison, I'm sorry, I got a little excited and kind of took over for a moment, but jump in here with a question for Brad Baker.
Oh, thanks, Brian. No problem. Well, I certainly understand all of the excitement. I actually wanted to bring in Colonel Hunt, who's sitting next to me. He, too, has been sort of following this with bated breath, watching all of these reports from Greg Kelly. Colonel Hunt, will you just give me your impressions of what you're seeing right now?
Well, I think the Battle of Baghdad has begun. It's over. I mean, you take the airport yesterday. We're running around the city. When you take the palace, the man's palace, his home, and put it on television, you've said we own the city. So now it's just a question of when we find Hussein, so we can declare victory, at least as far as Baghdad's concerned.
But it's not over. I mean, haven't we heard that there's a high possibility for many casualties now?
Oh, yeah.
And there's going to be street-to-street fighting. I mean, we're only on the cusp of this.
Well, when you take the airport for a major city, and you take the man's palace, you take the Ba'ath headquarters, you do all this bombing. I mean, we can go around anytime we want. It's never going to be over as long as Hussein is alive there. But from a tactical standpoint, it's an absolutely brilliant operation. And to suggest anything else, but we have victory. We haven't decided. We decided not to declare it. We did a great job.
Greg Kelly said that they encountered light to moderate resistance.
But you heard Dave Perkins' argument.
What did he say?
Perkins says, yeah, but you also saw us get hit with RPGs all day. Yeah, so when they get hit with a rocket-propelled grenade, which won't stop a tank, and we blow that piece of equipment out of the... Yeah. So from the guy getting shot at, it's not like resistance. And Dave's right. I mean, of course he's right. He's on the ground. I mean, they've run 500 or 600 miles. They've been continuous combat for 17, 18 days. The Marines on one side, Army guys, Naval Air, Air Force Air, the Special Ops community doing unbelievable things. Yeah, but somebody's going to declare victory in Baghdad. But from my perspective, when you own the airport and the presidential palace, it's pretty much over, at least for that particular part of the battle. We still got the northern part of the country to do.
Okay, Brian?
Yeah, I just want to add one little note here while y'all continue the discussion here just a moment. Apparently over at the Pentagon, they have been, as we have been, looking at these images from the presidential palace in the center of Baghdad, watching Greg Kelly's report. And according to our Mike Emanuel, who is there at this hour, they're kind of changing their mind. They think that indeed this might be the battle for Baghdad. They're basically confirming what our Greg Kelly has said. I want to reiterate, though, that Greg Kelly said it was a moment-by-moment situation. They're going to hold ground if they can, but they see no shame in backing out if they have to. They're going to continue to monitor the situation. But I just must reiterate the astounding images you are seeing, live pictures from the center of Baghdad. The Army's 3rd ID and our correspondent Greg Kelly are there on the scene. Tanks have taken the compound. The fight has been going relatively well. Moderate to stiff resistance, and this is apparently the moment we've all been waiting for, the attempt of U.S. Army and the coalition forces to take over downtown Baghdad. Allison?
Thanks, Brian. Colonel Hunt, why couldn't we have done this from the air? Why couldn't we have just taken out this presidential palace from the air? Why did we need to go in the ground and go actually inside this palace?
As great as the Navy and Air Force are, and as great as our helicopter pilots, nobody surrenders to an airplane. You got to have people on the ground. You have to own it, and there's a symbol here too. We could have flattened every building in Baghdad. It takes a little while, but we've chosen not to because of the hearts and minds business. It's more symbolic that we sit with a tank in front of his door than sit on rubble. So there's a bunch of symbols going on, but you want people on the ground as a symbol, and so when they eventually give up, they're giving up a human being. They don't give up to an airplane.
And yet we've heard from our reporters at Sky News in particular that they're expecting many more casualties now of civilians. So is this becoming a much more dangerous phase?
You know, yes, but it's been dangerous since the time it dropped off. If we are doing combat in the city, military operations in urban terrain, yes, but this is not what we're doing. We're doing quick right runs in the city and backing out. We've got 10,000 in the area, but probably at least 5,000 special ops guys who never leave the city. We've got pressure from all over the place. So we're not doing house to house. And in Sky News, I continue to say they're great guys. Every time I hear them talk, I still think they're watching a soccer match. This is, as Brother Wilson has said, this is remarkable to watch this. But sometimes we get ahead of the story. I mean, we're really ahead of the Pentagon right now. I mean, maybe not CENTCOM, but we're ahead of the Pentagon. They're watching Fox, talking to their boss, say, hey, by the way, we need to put a statement out. Dave Perkins is sitting in Hussein's palace. Remarkable.
What are you seeing here live that we're watching?
That's an M1A1, and it's one of Perkins's brigade, his tanks. What they're doing is simply pre-positioning. Whoever is shot at this, my dad is somebody shot at him.
Ooh, I think Kelly's back.
Go ahead,
Greg,
Mike.
can you hear us?
Somebody shot at the tank. Dumb move.
You could see somebody just now shooting at the tank?
You heard him. You heard that. See there? You heard the background.
Okay, so now...
He's pre-positioning. So now he's parking. See all those vehicles around him? They're parking vehicles to prepare for any kind of counterattack. These tanks have got optics, binocular optics that can see forever. So they want to place them in the best place to see and block for any kind of terrorist attack, any kind of tank that can come back. If you're the Iraqis, just like with the airport, you want to try to take this building back. This is a symbol of your country. So you would think so. But we have killed so many of them and destroyed so much of their guard. I think the only thing you're going to find coming at them are these terrorists, these Hussein.
Fedayeen?
Yeah, thank you. Fedayeen Saddam's backwards. Fedayeen Saddam guys coming at them with technicals, with trucks.
Well, that raises a good question. Now that we are trumpeting our location,
absolutely,
and we're announcing where we are, what does that mean? Have we opened ourselves up to any possible attack?
We're begging them. We're begging them to attack us.
Why?
Because when they attack us, the world falls on top of them. We're saying, look, here we are. We know they haven't got anything that can kill a tank, except for what happened. They've killed a couple with the Russian vehicles, with the Russian anti-tank weapons. We're saying, come on out. And once that happens, we pounce on them.
Okay, Brian, I hear you have some more info.
Well, we're getting information from the wire. I want to explain that our Greg Kelly is there. Everything's okay. We can hear him. Apparently, he cannot hear us. It's a common thing known as an IFB failure, but that's something we'll try to work on. But the pictures continue. U.S. military says no reports of casualty so far in Baghdad fighting. U.S. military says it is now in control. Hey, guess what, guys? Say we're now in control of one Baghdad palace and have entered a second. Another bulletin says that 65 U.S. tanks, 40 fighting vehicles are involved in this Baghdad operation, and U.S. troops are continuing their advance into Baghdad. I'm catching these bulletins as they cross our wires moment by moment, so it seems to be going extremely well. Live pictures from downtown Baghdad, and you can see on the left side of your screen, I believe these are pictures from Lebanese television, where you occasionally see some of the skirmishing that is still going on. You guys continue on. I'll keep monitoring all of the bulletins as they cross.
Thanks, Brian. Okay, so Colonel Hunt, now what? We just sit here and wait?
No, they got to go inside the building, look at the tunnels. You want to confirm that what the intelligence said these buildings are like, they're actually like it. So they're going to go throughout the building looking for booby traps, people looking for Hussein, looking for where he may have been, getting it. Now they own it. Besides the picture of it, now they have to gain intelligence and see where else to go. But Dave Perkins, this great brigade commander, has got another battalion and another palace. So he's got one battalion, which is 30 tanks, a bunch of Bradley guys. It's about 1,000 plus people. So I got 2,000 people, 1,000 in one palace, 1,000 in another, plus his command group. And this was a major coup for the American military. The Marines are, again, the southeast side of the city, doing similar things, but and I'm sure Ollie will be up in a minute with something more as remarkable. But he's going. They're gonna find out if the intelligence they were told, they confirm it. It's called confirm the template. Okay. At the same time, reposition his tanks and Bradleys for the counterattack we've already talked about. They absolutely expect that there'll be a counterattack.
We know from our intelligence that these presidential palaces in general have these sort of elaborate bunker systems. Hold on, Colonel Hunt. Sure. Hold that thought. We want to listen into Sky News for a second and see what they're saying about the battle in Baghdad.
Very much under Iraqi government control. The other side of the bank, the American flag has been raised and looks like it's there to stay. But there are still a lot of Republican guards, a lot of Fedayeen, a lot of militiamen on this side of the bank. So the Iraqi flag is still flying here. So it's really up to the Marines to come up that road behind me to try and finish this fight. But I don't think the Americans can easily be dislodged from the position they're in at the moment. They have control of the air. They have some of the best tanks in the world surrounding the positions they've taken up. They've got the infantry digging in, and they've got control of two of the main bridges across the Tigris River. They've got control of many of the information ministry and government buildings. So they've demonstrated what they can do, and it looks like they are here to stay. But this side of the river, the Iraqi government is still very much in control.
It's a remarkable picture, that, isn't it? Anybody who lives in a city which has a river running through it, if you've got enemy forces with their flags on one side of it and you're the other, you're going to rather get the message, aren't you?
Well, I think there's no escaping the message now. It's all happened extremely rapidly. At dawn this morning, we had a huge rolling heavy artillery barrage from the Iraqis aimed at the international airport, as far as I could tell. But very soon after that, the firefight really increased in tempo. And then suddenly we heard about the armored column coming through, and then we saw the A-10 tank busters above us and some coalition strike jets. We knew this was different. We knew the fight was coming to the very heart of the city, and sure enough, before long, we saw the American armored column on the opposite bank of the Tigris. A huge firefight, lots of smoke, lots of dust, the smell of cordite, tank shells detonating. You certainly know the fight has come to the heart of the city now. Everybody on the western part of the city must know, and probably can see, if they dare look out of their windows, one or two of those American flags. They've seen the American armor passing them. They know that the American troops are in control on the western side of the city. Very rapid movement, a very brave adventure, very brave sweep by the armored column. But there's still a lot of Iraqi defenders on this side of the bank of the Tigris, and perhaps quite a few have been cut off by the rapid movement, by the rapid advance, isolated pockets. But nevertheless, as we've known from Basra and all the other cities the Americans and the British have moved into, those might be isolated pockets, but they're very dangerous pockets. Desperate and determined, dangerous men who have got nowhere else to go and who will fight to the last. So although the Americans might be in control of certain areas on the west bank of the Tigris, the flag might have been raised, but it doesn't mean that they have complete control even of the west side of the city yet.
We're entering on that basis a very tense period, particularly for the reporters like yourself covering this, and I know that we all have to be careful what we say, but how would you assess the mood at the moment?
It's impossible for me, Simon, to assess the mood from where I've been standing here just listening to the battle, but looking around the streets, you've still got cars moving behind me. You've still got people moving around, perhaps trying to get out of it before the fight finally lands on this bank as well. We're getting shells landing on this side of the bank. So any civilians who can get out are probably getting out right now, which explains the movement of the cars around me. But I should think most people are hunkering down, waiting to see what happens. Perhaps waited for another few more hours yet for the firefights to die down, the machine guns to die down, and for the smoke of battle to literally clear. But at the moment, the smoke and dust and oil is drifting across the whole of the city. It's very hard for anyone to make out exactly what's happening, especially if you're taking shelter in your home with, say, all of your family, all of your children and your elderly relatives. You're going to stay there and turn the radio on and stay low, stay down, because there have been too many civilian casualties here already. But it looks like the final fight has now joined here right in the center of the city, and I expect that there'll be an attack on all points of the compass pretty soon to finally try and make this the final day of the battle. We'll have to wait and see if that's the case or not. As I say, these so-called pockets of resistance, even on the western bank of the Tigris, are very dangerous pockets. They might not have any command and control structures left. They might not be in radio contact with anybody, but they know the desperate situation. They know they've got to fight to the finish, and they will still resist. That's the Fedayeen, the Ba'ath Party militia, maybe the regular troops are prepared to sort of give up the fight. We don't know. I don't know what's happening on the western bank of the Tigris. I can hear there's a lot of activity, but the American flags have started to come up at various government sites. But here on the eastern bank, The government is still very much in control. The Iraqi government is in control, and there's still a lot of defenders on this side of the bank of the Tigris, let alone those pockets, dangerous pockets of resistance still surrounding the Americans.
You have been listening to Sky News coverage from the location, but these pictures you're seeing now, that's our correspondent Greg Kelly, and as you see, the Army's third ID banner, the banner from this particular tank group is being shown in front of the presidential palace in downtown Baghdad. Greg Kelly, are you there? Can you hear me?
I can, Brian. Yeah, great to talk to you. There's a lot of work going on, but a lot of celebration about securing this presidential palace. I think that's your tank up there.
That is our tank.
Lieutenant Colonel Flip-de-Camp, how was it coming in here, and what does it mean that American tanks are now on this compound of Saddam Hussein's?
Well, Saddam Hussein says he owns Baghdad. Wrong. We own Baghdad. We own his palaces. We own his downtown district. We own his hotels. Captain Chris Carter here brought in a mech infantry company and took this place, and he secured it. We've got another company down there, our tank company, secured the old presidential palace, and then we've got some monuments all covered down the middle of the town.
The resistance that you saw coming in, it was less, it seemed like, than what we saw 2 days ago. Does it make you feel like this thing has almost been won? Do you feel a lot of control right now?
Absolutely. They're showing sporadic resistance, but it's very poorly trained soldiers we're facing right now. So I think the good guy, the organized troops are giving up, and it's just the poorly trained militia type that are loyal to a madman is sticking around at this time.
You know, the troops have been in Iraq for a while, but it feels like now they understand they're making history. What are people talking about here?
Well, this is history. We've got the Rogues, our sister battalion, just north of us. They've got the monument sites. They wanted to raise flags, but we don't want to raise flags because we're not here to raise American flags. We're here to free the Iraqi people, and we've done that today, and that's the history. We've just taken down a regime, and we've brought freedom back to the Iraqi people.
Yeah, every time we've seen an American flag, we've noticed it's been on a tank. We haven't put it on any of the public buildings or anything like that. Have you been inside the palace yet?
I have not, but I know you have. There's running water. There's gold faucets. That'll be my first shower in about 20 or 30 days. I'm happy, looking forward to it.
You're gonna take a shower in Saddam Hussein's bedroom, huh?
In his personal bedroom. And Chris is going to get all his guys good and clean, too.
All right. Well, as you can see, these guys are happy. Everyone's happy. It looks like things are wrapping up. Still work to be done. They are securing other palaces and other points downtown. I guess you guys went to the University of Georgia, huh?
Lived in the same house, about 12 years apart. Oh, good stuff. The old Ranger house. How about them dogs?
How about them dogs?
Oh.
All right, Georgia. Hey, where are you going? All right, Brian, we're going to be here for a while. Enjoy the shot. We'll be back.
All right, thank you, Greg Kelly in Baghdad, and now we explain exactly what that battle flag was. Not so much a battle flag as a university flag, a University of Georgia Bulldogs being flown. Boy, this is astonishing. Being flown over the presidential palace in downtown Baghdad. These pictures coming to you exclusively on Fox News. You can't find them anywhere else. Greg Kelly, our correspondent with the Army 3rd ID, has entered the city of Baghdad. A number of tanks have taken one of Saddam Hussein's presidential palaces. They are in control of that location. At this point, they say they're going to stay for now. That is their plan. They say that they will keep assessing the situation. If they need to move, they'll move. But for now, their plan is to stay put. And as you heard, one of those soldiers says he intends to go into that presidential palace, go into Saddam Hussein's bedroom, turn the gold faucet, and take a shower. Amazing pictures coming to us from downtown Baghdad. Allison, jump in here.
Thanks, Brian. Colonel Hunt, I want to bring you in because we've been listening to all of this with rapt attention. You heard that soldier there say, Battalion Commander say, we own the city. And I certainly understand the adrenaline and the excitement, but is that premature?
That is a great tank battalion commander with a great infantry company commander, and they're tooting their horn. And it's the first time they've ever had this chance. They're on the world stage. Remarkably disciplined soldiers having fun at Hussein's and Kelly Fox expense. I mean, it's great stuff. But from his standpoint, he drove down the middle of Baghdad. He's in Hussein's palace. What you're saying is caution, danger, Will Robinson. There can always, yes. But he's saying, look, he's also saying, bring it on. We've been here 17 days. We've killed a lot of Iraqis. We're in your palace. We took the place. Now, from a larger standpoint, strategically, we probably don't want to announce that. We want to. There's a lot of things that are going on in the special operations community, in the intelligence community, with the Marines. A lot of things.
Oh, okay. Colonel Perkins is now back on our air. Colonel Perkins, can you hear us?
Great.
Colonel Perkins,
Colonel Perkins, you saw Colonel Hunt, your former boss, is on TV. Hey, say hi to your old officer.
I'm not saying hi. I'm going to say congratulations. I can't tell you how proud I am of you and the guys that you're with. It's been remarkable to watch this. And I know you got a lot more fight to do. I don't want to take up any more of your time. God love you, Dave. You've done a great job. Everybody's proud of you. Congratulations.
Hey, Dave, you always told me when I worked for you is trust in the soldiers. Well, you know what these guys do, and I can't even begin to hit the tip of the iceberg of what we've asked these U.S. Army soldiers to do in everything from a desert environment to river crossings and now in a highly urban area. And the American soldier has not failed this country once. It is unbelievable what the United States Army soldier has done here today.
Yeah, the training you've done to prepare for this, to watch how you've maneuvered your vehicles, used combined arms, the air, the concern you've shown and all the officers, NCOs for your soldiers, as well as killing all the people you've killed, is remarkable. I mean, I'm very, very proud to be. I mean, I'm not in there, but being in the midst of the camera, I can't tell you how exciting it is to watch you, having worked with you. I always knew I was working for you anyways. Now I know I am. Congratulations.
Dave, thanks. And like I said, this is a tribute to not only the American soldier, but the United States Armed Forces, that they have done this. And I'll tell you, with absolute minimum collateral damage, you can see the palace here is in pretty good shape, and very minimum loss of life to civilians. Even today, in the heart of the firefight, on the radio net, you could hear, ceasefire, ceasefire, it's a civilian.
Remarkable discipline,
Dave. The
Dave.
heroes that surround me here today.
Unbelievable discipline.
If you want true American heroes, you just take a look at all these guys surrounding me here that says U.S. Army on their uniform, and that's what American heroes are.
Yeah, and you represent them very well, and it's wonderful tribute to you that you're not taking credit. You're absolutely right. They're the greatest guys in the world, but they're very, very lucky to have you as their leader. Congratulations, pal. Go back to work.
Dave, thanks. I hear some artillery in the background. I'm getting told some BIMPs are coming in from the west, so I got to get back and work with these soldiers. But great to see you and everyone else watching. The soldiers are overjoyed with the public support they get. We're getting phone calls back to Fort Stewart, to family members, and I'll tell you, it means an awful lot to the soldier who's here in the middle of an urban fight to know that he has the public support of the American public behind him, and that really is what keeps him going. That and the concern for his fellow soldier.
You look good too, by the way. Of course, you always look good. It's a little embarrassing. Would you go finish your business? Thanks for taking the time. God bless. Congratulations.
All right, Dave. Good to talk to you.
Thank you.
Wow, that was incredible. You must be a very proud former boss at this point.
Yeah, it's all him. I mean, it's all. What you hear this. There's no credit. I've known a lot of officers in my almost 30 years who would have stood there and taken credit for what I was saying to him, and he never once did. That's the kind of officer he is, and why he's leading this division every day. You don't switch out brigades. Perkins. The other guys are very good. He's the best, and it's wonderful to see that.
Now, back to this battle.
Sure.
Just because we have secured one presidential palace does not mean that we've won the battle in Baghdad, does it?
Well, no. Okay. No. No, it doesn't, because we have to get Hussein, and Baghdad is as big as Los Angeles. But from I guess from a philosophical standpoint, when you take an airport and the palace, you're pretty close to saying we do. But I understand why, from a CENTCOM standpoint or a Pentagon standpoint, even from Alison Camerata's standpoint, you might want to consider not the answer no, because there are other things we want in order to claim that victory.
Like the regime, for instance.
Like Hussein's head in the pike, sure.
And we haven't gotten the dirty dozen.
The dirty, yes, Hussein is 40 thieves, about 40 guys out there. Absolutely true. Tactically, though, the difference, you're talking strategically, and on a tactical standpoint, from Perkins's tank point of view, we're pretty close.
Okay. Brian, take it away.
Wow.
I'm sorry, I was being given some information in my ear when you did that toss. Let me give you a couple of bulletins that are crossing the wire right now. According to the Reuters news service, U.S. military tanks The military says 65 tanks, 40 fighting vehicles are involved in this Baghdad operation. And the Associated Press says that the U.S. forces are near the Iraq Information Ministry and the Al Rashid Hotel, but have not taken them. So apparently they are in that vicinity, but have not physically taken the buildings. But to remind you once again, the building you see on your screen now is one of Saddam Hussein's presidential palaces, and the U.S. Army is there in control, along with our correspondent, Greg Kelly. More additional information. Apparently, the U.S. troops took control of President Saddam Hussein's main presidential palace in Baghdad and entered a second. On Monday morning, the U.S. military said, "We have seized the main presidential palace in downtown Baghdad. There are 2 palaces down there, and we are in both of them," says Lieutenant Colonel Pete Bayer, that according to the Reuters news service. Now, one of the people in charge of the operation to take this presidential palace was a Colonel Perkins, who you just heard a moment ago. Let's go back to an interview that Greg Kelly conducted about a half hour ago. It has the best information about what they're trying to do and what they're trying to accomplish.
Well, Saddam Hussein says he owns Baghdad. Wrong. We own Baghdad. We own his palaces. We own his downtown district. We own his hotels. Captain Chris Carter here brought in a mech infantry company and took this place, and he secured it. We've got another company down there, our tank company, secured the old presidential palace, and then we've got some monuments all covered down the middle of the town.
So there you have it. That is what they're trying to do, to have a presence in downtown Baghdad. It's been a really, really exciting morning. Let me recap. We have about 60 tanks running into the middle of Baghdad, we assume from the airport, which is to the west side of the city. Perhaps we can throw up a map there to give you some sense of what's been going on. A-10 Warthogs were in the skies, as were some type of surveillance drone aircraft, giving commanders a real-time view of the battlefield. But then we heard from Greg Kelly, who says we're in the center of Baghdad. We're headed for the presidential palace. And then a few minutes later, he called from the presidential palace. Now, the flames that you see on your pictures, and I believe these pictures are coming to us from Lebanese TV, those are oil reserves, puddles of oil that have been set on fire by the Iraqi forces in an attempt to obscure the view of coalition forces and coalition aircraft. Those are not burning tanks, as best we know. The tanks have met moderate to stiff resistance as they entered the town, but the amazing pictures that we are seeing from the presidential palace that you can see only here on Fox News. U.S. troops are in control of the presidential palace in downtown Baghdad. They have taken the shot down, we are told, for a while, but you have seen some amazing, amazing pictures in the last hours right here on Fox News. Allison?
Thanks, Brian. We heard from Greg Kelly that they had encountered light to moderate resistance on the way, and you heard them say that they had taken some artillery and some BIMPs?
Yeah, BIMPs.
What's that?
Colonel Perkins was saying that there was some BIMPs. So they're light armored vehicles, Soviet armored vehicles that they'll take apart. They're lost. Those BIMPs, these are Soviet armored personnel carriers.
And they're what? They're surrounding the presidential palace?
No, they were just coming down the road. They were getting some artillery.
On the way into Baghdad, through Baghdad.
Coming towards the palace. Yep. And so he was going to go out and look at the fight, but his battalion commanders, company commanders take care of that easily. But BMP, a Soviet-made, is no match for anything that we've got.
Okay, we also heard one of our correspondents from our sister network, Sky News, who's across the Tigris, saying that no action is happening over there yet. Right. You think that's strategic?
Absolutely on purpose. That's just like the question you had to why we didn't destroy the palace, why we're not firing over their hearts and minds. Here we got the palace. We're showing great restraint to the Iraqi, both military but mostly civilian population. Here we are. We've taken the palace. We're not bombing you across the river. We're trying to create an atmosphere that says we're here to take the regime out, not you. It takes patience.
Okay, let's listen into Sky News right now. They may have an update. Their reporters are providing some live coverage. Let's listen in.
David, we're going to leave you for a minute just to take stock. We'll be back to you in just a moment. I want to bring in Francis Tusa, who's been monitoring what's been going on in London. I think David described this as the Tigris standoff. Quite a remarkable scene militarily, one would imagine.
Correspondent, but you can see that we seem to have missed our opportunity to listen into their correspondent on Sky News, but you can see that he's in the full regalia. He has the helmet on. He has the vest on. But you're saying that they don't really have to worry on that side because we're not going to be striking anything on that side.
Correct, but he could be shot by anybody.
I see.
I mean, the Iraqis could show him. I mean, he's good. It's a very good idea in the middle of combat to have that kind of gear on, particularly with the press. And as we know, we've lost some press, you know, in combat since this battle.
We sure have. Let's talk about what's going on inside that presidential palace that we have now secured. We know that there's a bunker system with all these sort of Byzantine tunnels, perhaps underneath.
With some gold showers
Faucets.
There. Right.
And so what are the guys doing inside there right now?
Yeah, they're being very disciplined. Battalion commander, it's kidding. There's no way that he would ever do that. That's a lot. That is not going to happen. There's not any looting going on. What they're doing is they're going around to find any evidence of Hussein or the 40 thieves. What are the tunnels like? Do they connect to the other palaces? Is there any evidence he was there? Gathering more intelligence so they can move to the next palace. This is symbolic. Nobody's going to live there. We're going to give it right back to the Iraqis. We're not going to hurt it. But what I won't do is hurt that palace or any of the buildings for their symbol. I want to give this back to Iraq. But it's all intelligence gathering and a little bit of rest. But mostly right now is preparing for the counterattack. They're still concerned that the Iraqi military could try to come back and get this place. It should. I mean, just like the airport. Be some skirmishes. Nothing major. There's not much left in and around Baghdad of the Republican Guards.
And to your mind, are they there now for good? I mean, meaning for the next foreseeable future. Are they at this palace for the foreseeable future, or do they come in and then head out again?
My bet is they're going to have to leave some type of force there. The problem is it's such a huge place. They don't want to strip away too much. We need more force, like the 4th Infantry Division is coming up. We could use some military police. So they probably leave observation on it. There's no reason I can think of to tactically occupy that size palace, but you want to observe it. They might leave cameras back. They also have these Hunter drones, the Predator drone, and the Global Hawk that can help look at a place without putting guys there. Once you take a place like that, you don't want to give it back.
I thought it was very interesting what we heard, I guess it was Dave Perkins, say, we're not hoisting the American flag. And we're not hoisting it because we are not coming in to take over Baghdad.
Yeah, that was their battalion commander, and that shows how disciplined they are, how the message, which is political, not military, it's a political message that everybody's got. They can put that. They don't want to put the flag up on buildings because they're obviously going to inflame people in the Muslim community. But they're going to be on our tanks and Bradleys or those Americans. But that's a big restraint on our part. We've taken it. We'd love to plant the flag. They're not. It shows great discipline.
Okay, let's go back down to Washington and Brian Wilson.
Thank you very much. Let's talk about what has happened in the last few minutes. You're looking at some taped images that we have lost our signal temporarily from the presidential compound in downtown Baghdad. These are exclusive pictures to Fox News. Our correspondent Greg Kelly is on the scene. We have had an incredible morning, and it's been an incredible morning in Baghdad as a convoy of tanks apparently left the Baghdad, what is now called Baghdad Airport, for the center of the city, with our Greg Kelly right in the midst of them. And now we have seen pictures from the presidential palace. Greg Kelly has been in the presidential palace. Other soldiers have been in the presidential palace. They have looked around. One soldier said he was going to go inside and take a shower in Saddam's bathroom. So let's listen to a little snippet of tape that we have from a few moments ago with our Greg Kelly.
Well, this is history. We've got the Rogues, our sister battalion, just north of us. They've got the monument sites. They wanted to raise flags, but we don't want to raise flags because we're not here to raise American flags. We're here to free the Iraqi people, and we've done that today, and that's the history. We've just taken down a regime, and we brought freedom back to the Iraqi people.
Can you tell these guys are a little pumped up as they talk about what's going on there? Tremendous amount of adrenaline of these coalition forces, these U.S. soldiers, as they have driven directly into the heart of Baghdad, meeting stiff to moderate resistance, occasionally heavy resistance in the center of the city. Tremendous story there. You should talk a little bit about what he just said. They're not going to raise an American flag. That's a very sensitive issue. I mean, when you're in the military, you take land and you raise flags. That's what you're always trained to do. But in this case, they want to make the statement to the Iraqi people that we're not taking over your country. We are only trying to liberate it. So you'll see American flags on the back of tanks, but you will not see a flag flying, an American flag flying over Saddam Hussein's palace. Again, these are pictures taken earlier by Greg Kelly and his crew right in the center of Baghdad, pictures that you can only see here on Fox News. I have here in studio with me Tim Trevan, who is a man who knows a great deal about chemical weapons. Let me touch base while we continue to look at some of the pictures from the scene. It's been an interesting day on that front, has it not?
I haven't heard what the latest news is.
One of the things we're beginning to hear is that they may be finding more evidence of chemical weapons. The reports are sketchy at this time. We're waiting for confirmation. But it does sound as if they're beginning to find these caches of chemical weapons around the country. This is not surprising, I guess, to you.
No, I think anyone who followed the dossier in the past came to the conclusion early on that nothing had changed in Iraq's behavior, in Saddam Hussein's behavior towards weapons of mass destruction, and that his program of trying to buy the raw materials clandestinely for making chemical weapons had not stopped since 1998, and therefore we were expecting to find chemical weapons. So
now, as a former weapons inspector, you were right there in downtown Baghdad from time to time.
Absolutely.
What do you think when you see these pictures?
Well, I was talking earlier this evening with someone from your program about what would be the obvious next targets. And I think if you wanted to make a statement that the regime is over, the obvious targets to take would be that entire region that the American tanks are now in. It would be the presidential palace and all the government buildings in that part of downtown. And it seems that that's what's going on at the moment.
Tim, hold on. We're going to go back to Allison in New York.
Update our viewers on where we are right now and everything that's happened over the past couple of hours. Right now, folks, you are looking live. This is exclusive pictures of the presidential palace in downtown Baghdad that has now been secured by coalition forces. About an hour ago, say, U.S. troops seized this, along with other key buildings in the center of the Iraqi capital, including this presidential palace and the information ministry. We've also heard that they've some other symbolic statues, perhaps, they've now surrounded and secured. Our reporter, Greg Kelly, was the first embedded reporter into the heart of Baghdad, and he called us from inside this presidential complex. He said he had gone into this palace, he had seen how ornate it was, and soldiers are now inside there looking around, of course, trying to find any intelligence they can gather, trying to find Saddam Hussein, trying to find any evidence of his regime. Let's go right now live to Mike Emanuel for the latest on what the Pentagon is saying about this. Hey, Mike.
Well, hi, Allison. Yeah, as we look at those exclusive pictures coming from Greg Kelly's crew of the presidential palace there in Baghdad, Pentagon officials have been watching the images on Fox like the rest of us and are calling this at this hour a show of force, basically a raid, a demonstration, a show of force. And what they're trying to say is that U.S. Forces are basically trying to show this regime that the end is near, and also trying to show the Iraqi people that coalition forces can essentially come and go as they please. They are calling this an operation designed to demonstrate U.S. resolve that involves increased visibility of U.S. forces. And so essentially what they're saying is that watch the pictures as they develop throughout the evening, throughout the morning, the hours ahead. They're not calling this the end of the war, but certainly an extremely significant event. U.S. forces, Greg Kelly's crew, the 3rd Infantry Division of the U.S. Army, on the grounds of one of Saddam Hussein's most significant presidential palaces. Certainly a moment in history in this war. Allison?
And Mike, what's the mood there at the Pentagon right now? I mean, is it all sort of a buzz because of this?
Yeah, absolutely. They've been glued to their sets like the rest of us, watching the images coming from Greg Kelly and Mal James inside downtown Baghdad. Images that a lot of people in this building thought they would see at some point, but when it's actually happening in front of your very eyes, it's hard to take your eyes off the screen. And so a lot of the Pentagon officials have been glued to their sets and obviously working the phones, talking with their counterparts in Central Command in Doha about the latest developments. But you know, the real-time nature of this war coming from embedded journalists like Greg Kelly, Mal James, and his crew inside Baghdad from the military units actually carrying out these operations is like nothing we've ever seen before. And so for people who make a career in the military, it's obviously been a fascinating study to watch what's going on just like the rest of us lay people.
Well, Mike, we are happy to serve as the Pentagon's video feed service, and we will keep these images coming as long as possible. Thank you. We'll check back in with you. Now let's go back down to Washington and Brian Wilson.
Yeah, let me check in as you continue to look at pictures we took a short time ago of the presidential palace in downtown Baghdad, where Greg Kelly has set up his video phone. The battle continues, apparently. We are hearing a little bit about the other side of the story from the Iraqis now. They are trying to make the case that they aren't out of this fight yet. The Iraqi information minister says that the foreign ministry is still firmly in Iraq hands. And they say that Republican guards with rocket-propelled grenades are defending the ministries. However, that is in direct contradiction to at least one thing you see on your screen, and that is the picture of U.S. troops clearly in possession, controlling the grounds of Saddam Hussein's presidential palace in downtown Baghdad. Perhaps we keep repeating because the events of the last 2 hours are so astounding, so allow me to repeat one more time what has happened. A convoy of coalition tanks, actually Army tanks, 3rd Army ID, coming in from the airport, which is west of the city, into the center of Baghdad. In the midst of them is our own Greg Kelly, who has been reporting now from the presidential palace in downtown Baghdad. These are exclusive pictures. Nobody else can touch them. We're the only people there right now. On your left side of your screen, you're seeing some of the other foreign news services. Notably, the Lebanese news service has been providing really tremendous pictures of what's going on around Baghdad. It does appear that, as it stands now, U.S. and coalition troops are on the west side of the Tigris River, and there are still a lot of Iraqi operations on the east side of the river, and apparently there is a battle going on there now, according to David Chater, who works for our sister news operation, Sky News. I'm sorry, repeat that please in my ear. Captain Chuck Nash is with us right now. Chuck, I want to bring you in here. We've seen it's been, your mouth just keeps falling open with the images and the developments in the last couple of hours. Share with me your thoughts about what you've seen here in the last few minutes.
Absolutely, Brian. If we could cut to the screenwriter, I think we'll diagram up a few things and put this on a map so people can take a good look at it. What we've got so far is that the road that comes in from the airport hooks up to an expressway, which actually winds right up to this area of town, which is the west side of the Tigris River. And just to make sure that we're all clear on this, the Tigris River is this line right here that cuts right through the center of Baghdad. So our guys are right in this area here, and to put that really in perspective on the satellite photo, this is where the good guys are right now. This is the expressway that comes in from the airport right along here, and the palace is right in this area right here. Now, across the river from this is where the Palestine Hotel is, and the folks over there have been simply looking across the river, right across here, and seeing Greg Kelly and the 3rd Infantry Division setting up shop and getting a well-deserved hot shower in Saddam Hussein's bathroom. The other thing that's going on is this over here is the memorial of their unknown soldier, and there's been some discussion excuse me, some discussion as well about a unit operating there. So it appears that what may have happened is they probably started out here by the airport, which is just off this chart, about 5 miles, and what they did was they came in right up the expressway. One group went over here to the memorial, the other group came over here and took this palace area. And that's as best we can tell right now until we get some more information, but I think that's fairly accurate.
Now, I want to make sure I understand, Captain Nash. On the other side of the river are a lot of where we're seeing some of these pictures. That's
Of course,
course, are the palaces where President Saddam Hussein had been living and is no longer there. We're going to try to find out exactly what is going on in the search, the hunt for Saddam Hussein, and former Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich is here to talk as well. Alan?
22 minutes away, Greta Van Susteren on the record. Be sure to watch it coming up right after Hannity and Combs. Also coming up next, Major General Paul Vallely will be here with an update on Operation Iraqi Freedom, and later we'll talk with a protester who spent part of today trying to prevent war supplies from getting shipped out to American troops. Was that the right thing to do? We'll debate it coming up on Hannity and Combs.
Operation Iraqi Freedom. Fox News Live Daytime has it covered. Unparalleled reporting from dedicated journalists.
The strongest bombing of the war yet.
From the front lines to the home front, America's #1 source for cable news.
The 101st Airborne on the move.
Fox News Live. Real journalism, fair and balanced.
No more biking for you.
Oh, boy. It's the moment of choice, Tylenol or Advil. Doctors nationwide choose Advil most for strains and sprains. Advil gives you longer-lasting relief than Tylenol on tough muscle pain. Advance to Advil.
Sport-tuned suspension, 280 horsepower V8. The new Lincoln LS, the driver's luxury car. There are those who travel and those who travel well.
HP technology and HP people help BMW Williams run every race before the driver ever gets in the car.
Also coming up tonight in our shootout section, we'll talk to a man who was part of a protest today in Oakland. And, well, you're not going to believe it. They're actually trying to prevent supplies from getting to our troops. First, we're joined by Fox News military analyst, retired U.S. Army General, our good friend Paul Vallely. Paul,
Sean, how are you?
Paul, we're not in, according to the Iraqi propaganda minister, we are nowhere near Baghdad. They are in complete control. Listen, first of all, where do you think the Iraqi leadership, the Ba'ath Party leadership, is hanging out right now? There's no sign of any of them.
Well, you know, Sean, that's a great question. Where are they? I had some information delivered to me about an hour ago, and here's some interesting take on that. There's a place called Latakia. It's the Côte d'Azur on the Syrian coast. There's been a lot of spottings of senior Iraqi generals and officials of the government there.
Now, where is that? Can you show us there?
Well, it's right on the Mediterranean. It's called Latakia. Okay. It's called the Côte d'Azur of Syria. It's on the Mediterranean. I don't have a map to show you, but we can find it later on. Now, the other interesting report that I got, that the leadership, because we haven't really seen many of them, they are bunkered down, bunker in tunnels under Baghdad, and also in Tikrit, where we have an extensive bunker system and tunnel system that's been developed up there. And one of the objectives that I understand is they're going to try to use chemical or biological weapons, not from overground, but from the underground. So that's sort of an interesting twist here, which we have to look for with a little anticipation.
General, what do you mean from the underground? That when our troops go in, because there's going to be a very difficult period in which we're trying to get these guys out of there, are you saying that they're going to launch them from there against our troops, or what exactly do you mean?
Well, that was one of the scenarios that was presented to me earlier, that we really got to close up these bunkers and tunnel systems. And I think I mentioned last night on your program of that tunnel system that goes from the airport down to a presidential palace. So I would hope our special operations forces are really going in there and trying to seal off those bunkers and tunnels. Yeah. Because the word that I got, there may be plans to take some of those chemical or biological agents and surface them underground to the overground in the environment there once we get our troops in there. So I think we have to be very wary of that.
I think we got to be very, very concerned about that, which leads us to the issue that we've been dealing with. Multiple reports out today that we have found suspected chemical weapon sites. There's been a lot of debate, especially over the weekend in the Sunday programs, about the issue of whether or not, what if we, quote, don't find weapons of mass destruction? I don't believe, even if they had truckload after truckload of weapons being shipped over to Syria, which I don't doubt happened, the arsenal is so large, I don't have any doubt we're going to find a lot of stuff. Do you?
Well, Sean, we're finding stuff already. All the indications of chemical and biological laboratory storage.
The Euphrates River, everywhere.
Everywhere. And we found that large stash today, which is being validated right now by the teams, the exploratory teams that are in there. But, you know, as we divulge more intelligence from some of the defectors and senior people, they're going to talk, and they're giving us information right now that indicates that it's even bigger perhaps than we thought.
You know, it's amazing. Our intelligence, we must have terrific intelligence. I'm guessing we know about those bunkers, exactly how they're situated, what they look like. Do we even know who might be in them?
Well, we do. I think, Alan, at this time, and it's certainly the senior leadership, because we don't see them anywhere other than the Saturday Night Live story that we get from the Iraqi information minister every day, who has no clue where he is or what's going on within 100 yards of him.
We've been talking. We talked to Ali a little bit earlier, and we've been getting word that there is some resistance, but not an organized resistance. Are you surprised by the lack of an organized? Not that it's easy at all, and not that there still is a lot of work to do, but are you surprised by the lack of organized, strong resistance that's going on?
Well, I think you could only be surprised, Alan, if you weren't anticipating that right from the beginning, the campaign plan was to decapitate the leadership and really disintegrate that command and control from the top of the Special Republican Guard on down to the units, extending out to Basra and up to Mosul and Kirkuk and Tikrit. And so we have really decimated that command and control down to the lowest levels. Now, we still have those groups out there with sporadic resistance throughout even Basra to a degree now that the British are dealing with, but also within Baghdad. We have to really find out what's up at Tikrit right now, so I think that's got to be a special focus as well.
We really expected, though, that we would be met with some chemical or biological weapons. I know that they have great protective gear. They're really prepared for this, and yet very little has happened.
Well,
right, hang on, right. Major General, hang on one second. We've got some breaking news. We're going to check in with Shepard Smith. He's in Fox Central right now. Shep?
Well, Sean, developing news here in the Fox newsroom, and here is what Fox News can confirm as of 10 o'clock here on the East Coast. The United States struck a target of opportunity this afternoon. I can get you an exact time in just a moment, and I believe we have the videotape that coincides with this strike as well. Senior U.S. officials, multiple senior U.S. officials, tell our Rita Cosby, and I believe, in fact, that this is the videotape, that we struck a target of opportunity this afternoon and that they had acted on a tip from folks on the ground that leadership may have been inside this home inside Baghdad, a home as it's been described to us by multiple sources. It's believed in the early going that inside that home were Saddam Hussein and his two sons, or that was the thinking in the very early going. They conducted this bombing and dropped what multiple sources tell us was a large amount of ordnance. That this particular home about which I'm speaking, and that I believe is from this particular bombing, was leveled and blown to smithereens. And though a source tells us that they had reason to believe Saddam Hussein and his sons were seen going into this home, neither Saddam nor Hussein nor his sons were seen coming out. The long and short of it is, sources tell Fox News there is a strong belief that, in fact, Saddam Hussein and his two sons may have been killed in this bombing campaign. We're working to get our senior correspondent, Rita Cosby, who has this double source, and a couple of others on as well. Our Pentagon correspondent, Brett Baer, is working his sources at the Pentagon. Brett, what can you say?
Shep, we can confirm that the U.S. military Central Command targeted what they're calling a leadership target of opportunity in a residential neighborhood in and around Baghdad. They used a lot of ordnance, we're told. Defense officials telling us that it was a significant amount of ordnance on this one particular building. It's described as a target of opportunity. Nothing specific as far as who was inside. However, officials tell us that it was leadership targets that were taken out here. Now, what exactly was the result of this? The battle damage assessment is still going on. However, it was a significant crater created in this one particular spot, this one building. We have other sources telling Fox News that there was indeed a belief that Saddam Hussein and his sons may have been inside this building. Military officials are only confirming that it was a target of opportunity, and leadership targets, high-level Iraqi regime leadership targets, were targeted with this strike. Chet?
Yeah, that's the information that we're getting as well, Brett. They were acting on eavesdropping and a tip, according to multiple sources, to multiple correspondents within Fox News Channel, acting on significant and human information coming from multiple sources. And the bottom line of what we believe to have happened as of this moment is that Saddam Hussein and his son were, according to a number of sources, to have been inside this home. That coalition forces acted very quickly and with a great deal of ordnance. You may remember the first night of all of this, when the first target happened, the first night when President Bush changed much of the early going of the plan because George Tenet, for lack of a better phrase, walked into his office and said, "President, I think we have him." And the president threw out the early game plan, at least for the opening moments of this war, and decided to drop some 40 different missiles and heavy bombs on this bunker. It was believed, at least, that Saddam Hussein may have been injured in the early going. There were some reports that he may have had some injuries to his legs. You know that there were reports that Saddam Hussein may have come out of this particular building on a stretcher and may have been taken away in an ambulance. Well, then today, after this seizure of the palace in downtown Baghdad, after the moving on his parade grounds, which we witnessed live last night on Fox News Channel, shortly thereafter, approximately, if I could remember the exact time, I would, that videotape came in, but I think it was between 12:30 and 1:30 Eastern Time. They had gotten, and this is the videotape from that, as seen on Abu Dhabi television and through the Fox News Channel at the time. This was the biggest bombing of the day. Our producers who watch tape and watch incoming feeds all day said that this was the biggest of it all. It was after sundown in Baghdad. They're 8 hours ahead of Eastern Time. So between 9:30, around that time, when this strike of significance happened, this strike of opportunity was carried out. And again, the sources were telling leadership that, in fact, it was believed that Saddam Hussein and his sons may have been in there. They acted on eavesdropping and on some other on-the-ground sort of information that they were getting. So they bombed this target and did so with a great deal of ordnance. And though we have not been able to get any specific reports from the ground, we have no correspondent who has seen this building after, in fact, it was bombed. It was described to me by a source and to Rita Cosby by a source as a home. It was described to a couple of other of our correspondents by sources to have been a building, be that as it may. Multiple sources all telling us that their intelligence is that it was reduced to rubble. Now, do they see this from aerial drones? Did they see this from spy satellites? Exactly how they saw that this was reduced to rubble, we really don't know. And we don't know if maybe it was a person who saw it up close on the ground. But I can tell you that it wasn't one of our correspondents or anyone with whom we have touch. At any rate, multiple confirmations that this building was reduced to rubble, and multiple confirmations that Saddam Hussein and his sons did not come out of that building. So if it all adds up properly, as we believe at least in the early reporting that it does, Saddam Hussein, this is the most recent tape of him, I believe this was earlier today, no, this is the tape from the other day, you may remember. Saddam Hussein and his sons seen going into that building and not seen coming out. Does that mean that they've killed or believe that they have killed Saddam Hussein? I can tell you that sources who are speaking with a group of us are hopeful at this point that they've been able to cut off the head of the leadership. It has clearly been their goal from the very beginning. They made absolutely no bones about the fact that they wanted to take away this regime's ability to conduct itself, and taking out the leader or the leadership targets was goal number one on the first night of this war. They've been looking for targets of opportunity ever since. It appears that today, in the early evening hours, just after sundown in Baghdad, that they found a target of opportunity. They struck that target of opportunity with a great deal of ordnance, as it's been described. We believe that this is the videotape of that very strike, and it's possible, as Fox reports tonight, that Saddam Hussein and his two sons may have been inside that building, and we have no reason to believe that they came out. So these are the pictures, and I want to bring Bret Baier back into this discussion if he is still with us at the Pentagon. Bret, I know that we've been working on this for a few hours now, and things just seem to come together all at once. Do you anticipate that there might be anything formal to come out with all of these reports, which are quite frankly across all of the networks now?
Yeah, nothing scheduled here at the Pentagon. We may hear something out of Central Command, possibly, as it gets into the morning hours there. I can tell you that as we present all of this information from our sources, that this building in a residential area was taken out. It's target of opportunity, a leadership target of opportunity. As you mentioned, all of the sources talking to a number of us about why this was taken out. As far as Saddam Hussein and his sons being inside, we cannot definitively say that that is the case. Of course, you remember the first strike in this war when the two F-117 stealth fighters dropped those precision-guided bombs on that bunker where Saddam Hussein and his sons were believed to be. There was some thought in this building that Saddam Hussein didn't make it out of that strike. There are people hopeful tonight that this strike has taken out the leader of Iraq, but again, no definitive word from officials across the administration. They can tell you that a leadership target was taken out tonight with a massive amount of ordnance. We're being told some 4 bunker buster bombs. These are the 5,000-pound precision-guided bombs. They've been used a few times inside Iraq already. They essentially penetrate a building and entirely take it out with a massive amount of ordnance. If 4 of them are used, essentially that building would be leveled. We're being told whoever was inside that building is not there anymore. The question is, was Saddam inside, and were his sons inside? Shep.
All right, Bret Baier live at the Pentagon. Bret, thanks very much. Our senior correspondent Rita Cosby has been working her sources on this, and she's getting some confirmations as well. Rita's on the phone with us now. Rita, what are you learning?
Hi, Shep. Well, actually, I just arrived in studio. Hi, Shep. And my sources are telling me, this is according to several U.S. officials, senior officials, that they did get some very strong intelligence that some senior Iraqi leaders, including Saddam and his 2 sons, went into a residential complex in Baghdad. They got this information afternoon time in Baghdad, meaning morning our time. They got confirmation from the air and 3 sources on the ground, 3 pieces of human intelligence on the ground, probably 3 individuals on the ground confirming it. Then they did not see any of these individuals leave the location. Fortunately, because, you know, we've been covering it from the ground and from the air so extensively, and now with our forces there, you know, really penetrating the area, we have so many aircraft flying above, that as soon as they got this piece of intelligence, I'm told within minutes, they were able to call the airstrike, and then those bunker buster bombs were dropped on this complex. I'm told it's a residential complex in Baghdad. Now, what I'm also told is what is left of the location, it is, quote, a very big hole. And according to the intelligence officials, again, individuals on the ground and what they were able to see in the sky, no one left that complex. I've asked, do we know if Saddam Hussein is alive or dead? And they are telling me now, it's interesting, these are officials who are always very cautious in the past, and they are saying to me there's a very good chance that he is dead. They said we can't say concretely because, of course, it's a very big hole. The identification process is very detailed. Of course, it may just be body parts. It may be barely anything to see if you drop these enormous bunker buster bombs. But they said what is essentially left there is a very big hole and a lot of little pieces for them to go through, little pieces of clothing, a number of things, and it may be some time until they can get a positive identification. But they seem very optimistic tonight that they may have gotten Saddam and his 2 sons. Back to you.
Rita Cosby live with us from Studio A across the building. Rita, thanks. So some degree of confirmation from Bret Baier that they struck a leadership target. You heard Rita's confirmations there. And this, just as after Rita began, this crossed from Reuters News Service, and I will read to you what Reuters is reporting as of just about 2.5 minutes ago. The U.S. military Monday bombed a target in Baghdad where Iraqi President Saddam Hussein may have been inside, according to a U.S. official. Quoting here, there was intelligence that came in this morning which suggested that there was a gathering of Iraqi intelligence officials and possibly including Saddam and both of his sons in a residential district of Baghdad, the official told Reuters. The information was passed to Central Command, which authorized aircraft in the area to bomb the site. There was no confirmation yet that Saddam and his sons were killed in the strike, according to the official. But we can go a little bit farther as to say that our sources are telling us, and multiple sources, that no one was seen coming out of this building after the strike. Rita Cosby's description of this building seems to be right on, and that is that what was left was a very large hole. Multiple sources have told us that this building was reduced to rubble. The idea that there was a hole there in the aftermath makes sense as well. How do they get that information? We don't know if that was from, as I mentioned before, we don't know if that was from drones or from spy satellites, or whether they have some sort of informants on the ground, possibly special ops, CIA, and the rest who are on the ground and maybe were even able to witness the aftermath of those airstrikes, or whether the pilots through gun cams were able to give them that information. But the long and short of it is, they have reason to believe that no one came out of these buildings, and they had tips that led them to believe that Saddam Hussein and his two sons were in there. Wrap all of that together in a nice tight package? Well, we just can't do that quite yet. But we can tell you that there is a belief now among many senior U.S. officials, and certainly there is a hope among a large number of them as well, that the work that they carried out tonight accomplished the goal which they were attempting to accomplish, and that is to take out the senior Iraqi leadership. There is belief now that they may in fact have done that. Some of the most recent tape of Saddam Hussein is seen today and aired on Fox News Channel after it was sent out by Iraqi state television. So that's pretty much what we have, though I'm told we're getting one bit of more information from our correspondent Carl Cameron, and I want to get into his urgent right now. Tonight's strike was from a tip, not a wiretap. The leadership target of Opportunity Tonight, sources say they were told there was a major Iraqi leadership meeting. That from Carl Cameron's sources. So all the sources to our correspondents are saying basically the same thing. And there is a belief and certainly a hope that Saddam Hussein and his sons were killed tonight in Allied bombing. I'm Shepard Smith in New York, continuing coverage from the Fox team throughout the night. Greta Van Susteren picks up now on The Record. Have a good night.
Well, Shep, it doesn't get bigger than it did tonight. We're going to go straight to the Pentagon where Brett Baer is standing by. Brett?
Hi, Greta. Senior defense officials telling us that a target was taken out in Baghdad tonight. A large amount of munitions was used. 4 bunker buster bombs used to take out a building in a residential neighborhood inside Baghdad. The target was based on time-sensitive intelligence, according to senior defense officials. Other U.S. officials telling Fox News that they believe Saddam Hussein and his sons were inside this building. This information coming from a tip, according to one of our sources, and then the strike was initiated. We can tell you that essentially it's being described as a crater. That is all that remains of this one building, described to some as a residential, a home, others as a building in a residential neighborhood. Of course, remember that the first strikes inside Baghdad that started this war happened in a bunker inside Baghdad as 2 F-117 stealth fighters attempted to take out Saddam Hussein and his sons. Then there were people in this building that believed it had worked. Now you are looking at the actual bombing, we believe, tonight. Some of the major explosions seen on the outskirts there of Baghdad. Residential neighborhood again, taken out with 4 bunker buster bombs. These are 5,000-pound bombs that essentially penetrate a building to take it out completely. We are told by multiple sources that Saddam Hussein and his sons were believed to be inside that building, according to human intelligence on the ground, coming from a tip, according to Carl Cameron's sources. Senior defense officials simply saying it was a leadership target taken out, a target of opportunity. One official telling us whoever was inside did not get out. The big question is, was Saddam Hussein inside with his sons? Greta?
Brett, when did we get the intelligence? What time did it come in? Do you know?
afternoon intel, we're told, came in the afternoon Baghdad time. The strike happened just a few hours later after nightfall. As you can see these pictures, these came in right after nightfall Baghdad time, and we just started getting the information about exactly what was taken out a couple of hours ago.
Brett, the troops have been in at least with the presidential compound today. They've been in Baghdad. Any idea where the relationship to this bombing is to where our troops have been in Baghdad?
As far as the position of the palace where they were, the new presidential palace, and this neighborhood, I believe it is to the south and east. We'll check that on a map, but the position of the U.S. Army troops with the combat task force that have been inside Baghdad, they were inside the presidential palace, the combat task force from the 2nd Brigade of the 3rd Infantry Division, once again rolling into downtown Baghdad today, going inside that palace, also surrounding the Ministry of Information, and driving around on the parade field, taking out a 40-foot statue of Saddam Hussein. All of this happening in the heart of downtown. This strike on this leadership target was in the residential area, essentially the suburbs of Baghdad, on the outskirts, similar to the strike on the bunker at the beginning of this war, just a little bit outside downtown. Now you're looking at video, the last week's video of Saddam Hussein, or who Iraqi television said was Saddam Hussein, walking the streets of Baghdad. You know, U.S. officials then looked at that and said it truly does. They believed that this was Saddam Hussein, everything that they looked at, thinking that this was indeed the leader of Iraq. Whether he was in that building tonight, U.S. officials telling us a number of different sources, to Rita Cosby, to Carl Cameron, to myself, there was a belief on the ground that Saddam Hussein and his 2 sons were inside this building tonight when it was taken out.
Brett, you mentioned senior leadership and Saddam Hussein and his 2 sons. Are there others that are expected to be with them that are part of the leadership?
Well, there is, as you know, a tight circle at the top. Tariq Aziz up at the top of the leadership, a number of other advisors to Saddam Hussein, but the main leadership structure is Saddam Hussein, his sons, his 2 sons, and they were believed to be having a meeting inside this building, a residential building, when 4 bunker buster bombs were used to take it out. All that remains there tonight, Greta, is a crater. Now, the interesting thing is how there will be an identification if all that remains is just a hole in the ground. Obviously, the U.S. and the coalition forces want to examine this site to try to get some identification. You know, we saw down in Basra, the home of Ali Hassan al-Majid, notoriously known as Chemical Ali, taken out in a precision strike, laser-guided bombs used there. And today, British officials confirming that the body recovered there was, in fact, his body. Now, whether there will be a body recovered or many bodies recovered out of this building that was struck tonight will be interesting to see over the next few hours, what kind of ground sourcing we can get, ground truth on the battle damage after this strike.
Brett, Qusay was the heir apparent to Saddam Hussein, the younger of the two sons. What do you know about him?
Well, Saddam Hussein split up Iraq into sections, essentially, and Qusay was in charge of one of the sections, also in charge of the Special Republican Guard, the special security organization, the troops inside the city responsible for essentially keeping people in line, and also for, if you will, secret police jobs inside the city. Probably the most notorious of the 2 sons, Uday, or also the other son, in charge of military operations in one section of Iraq. Saddam Hussein splitting up the country essentially to his most loyal followers. Chemical Ali, notoriously known for using chemical weapons on the Kurds in the 80s, in charge of the south, and the rest of the country broken up to his other sons.
All right, Bret Baier, if you could just recap for the viewers who have just tuned in, extraordinary information coming out of Baghdad. If you could just recap for the viewers exactly what we know and what has happened.
Okay, we can tell you from multiple sources, both in the U.S. military and throughout the administration, that a target has been taken out, a building on the outskirts of Baghdad. It is believed on the ground, from intelligence on the ground, that Saddam Hussein and his 2 sons were inside at the time of this strike. 4 bunker buster bombs, massive 5,000-pound weapons used to take out this building. There is hope in the administration that that strike took out the targets, Saddam Hussein and his 2 sons. No confirmation, obviously, until we get word from the ground. But a leadership target, a target of opportunity, that's how it's being described by officials across the board. Greta?
All right, Brett, I'll let you go. If you can go get us some more information. We're going to turn, now we'll come back to Bret Baier at the Pentagon, but I'm joined by former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. Newt, extraordinary information. This is what we've been waiting for.
Well, it's an amazing evening to be here and to be part of what is really historic. And I think whether this particular event finally got rid of Saddam and his 2 sons, what we're clearly witnessing is the collapse of the regime. And we've seen it now for the last 48 hours with American forces more and more inside Baghdad, with the British inside Basra, and with so many aircraft available specifically targeting in on Baghdad, that we can react with stunning speed when we learn this kind of information. So I think anybody who's in the dictatorship must have this feeling that the Americans are now hunting them down, which is what we're doing. I mean,
when you think about it, 4 bunker bombs, 5,000 pounds of each. We saw a video of the aftermath of the explosion, a huge crater. I mean, it's extraordinary the amount of force that was unleashed today at that home, at that residential area.
Well, I think it's clear that the Central Command, General Franks, is determined to get these guys, and that they've been the cause, as you saw with the 200 bodies discovered over the weekend in one warehouse alone. They've been the cause of an amazing amount of pain and anguish for the Iraqis, the Iranians, and others. And I think we don't believe that the regime will fully be gone until they're gone. And I think that our hope is, if we can get rid of them, that the rest of the regime will then collapse. And it'll be over.
Carl Cameron was reporting that this was information. We got tips on the ground. Once the U.S. troops moved into Baghdad and once much of the leadership was destroyed, it changed, didn't it, for us?
I think what happened was the minute the Iraqis believed we were truly here to stay, that this wasn't going to be like '91, where we promised some things, they didn't happen, but this time it was really serious. You began to see people who covered their bets. I suspect there's some fairly high-ranking Iraqis who are now calling Central Command in a variety of ways and saying, let me share information with you, let me be on your side. Part of it is a desire to be with the winners. Part of it is a desire to get rid of Saddam. And I think the combination of those two is giving us tremendous amounts of information we didn't have 2 weeks ago.
All right, Mr. Speaker, if you'd stand by, we're going to go to Carl Cameron, who's here in D.C. Carl?
Hi, Greta. Well, Mr. Gingrich is pointing out that there has been tremendous pressure on a lot of the Iraqi military leadership. Our government has been in touch by email and even in some cases cell phone with some of the senior Iraqi military leaders before the actual war, giving them instructions in a variety of ways in which they might surrender and avoid being killed in this battle. Now, with U.S. forces rolling through Baghdad, it's likely that it would serve as a tremendous impetus for the Iraqi military to begin to help the invading coalition forces. And some of our intelligence sources are suggesting that, in fact, that's exactly what happened today. There was information on the ground provided to the U.S. government that indicated that there was a major meeting at this home in residential Baghdad that was described to U.S. government officials as an intelligence gathering of senior Iraqi officials. Now, notwithstanding the confirmation of the attack on what was a target of opportunity as the Iraqi leadership, according to our sources, we don't know what happened, whether or not Saddam Hussein and his sons Qusay and Uday were there. It's interesting to note that in just the last couple of days, there have been some reports that have suggested at least one of Saddam's sons was badly injured in the original decapitation strike and may have been in intensive care in Damascus, Syria. Clearly, if he was in Baghdad at what would have been an intelligence meeting tonight, that was untrue. So the intelligence community being very cautious as to what they're going to do in the early bomb damage assessment. It's also important to understand how quickly this happened. We're told that within just minutes of this information being provided to the military on the ground in Baghdad, they were able to divert a B-1 to that target of opportunity and just pound it. And it was a very, very rapid response. And it would seem unlikely, based on that if Saddam and his sons and the senior military officials were in the building, they would have had an opportunity to skedaddle quickly. Again, there is a tremendous amount of caution with this. There have been a lot of attacks on targets of opportunity and leadership attacks in the last couple of weeks of this war that have not gotten as much attention as this one. in large measure, Greta, because there is the beginnings of a discernible amount of confidence in both the intelligence community and elsewhere that we may have gotten them this time.
And of course, Kyle, you bring into the mix that Rita Cosby is reporting that they had 3 pieces of information on the ground, and I assume that's 3 separate pieces of information, maybe 3 informants to say that this meeting, the senior leadership with Saddam, his 2 sons, that it was meeting there. So, of course, even that makes it at least more compelling. We can maybe lift a little of our caution.
And there's been a lot of discussion already about the quality of this intelligence as very reliable. Normally, in the context of intelligence community parlance, when they're saying that this is sort of impeccable information or very, very reliable, strong intelligence, what they're usually talking about in those cases is eavesdropping, that there's been a wiretap somewhere or some communication that's been intercepted. The U.S. has had profoundly successful ability to intercept wireless communication throughout Iraq for months now. Our ability to get into hard lines, telephone lines in the ground, particularly fiber optic, was not so strong up until the last couple of weeks. And now that we are in Baghdad, our ability to monitor Iraqi communications is dramatically improved. Simply dig a hole in the sidewalk and pull up a fiber optic cable to hack into it. So our ability to have verifiable intelligence through what's referred to as signal intelligence or electronic intercept is very, very strong. But we are told that there was not, in this particular case, what is often referred to as sort of triangulation, where they take the various different electronic pieces of information and figure out a specific location. This, as you've just said, Greta, apparently was from individuals.
You know, you'd think, Carl, though, when we talk about meeting of senior leadership, I mean, that's what we're calling it, but it's sort of hard to think that that's exactly what they were doing. I mean, the city was badly bombed. Coalition troops were inside. You'd think there was a mean to figure out how to get out of there, how to hide, how to run.
Except that the city of Baghdad isn't exactly ringed, as we well know, and there are a couple of highways, particularly to the north and to the west, that are still open, but to the east that are still open. But for a major convoy to move, which is how Saddam Hussein, except at night, would be ushered around Baghdad, it would be taken out almost immediately. So what we are now apparently seeing is the fruits of Iraqi dissidents within Baghdad beginning to tell the coalition where they can find the leadership of the soon former Iraqi regime.
All right, Coffey, and stand by. Just to recap, the United States strikes at senior leadership targets thought to be Saddam Hussein and his 2 sons in a residential area. 4 bunker bombs, 5,000 pounds, leaving a huge crater. We're exercising some caution. We do not know for sure yet, but the community, the U.S. The Defense Department is at least growing more optimistic, and so are we as we look at the facts. Mr. Speaker, you would have thought that he would have run to someplace. There were countries that would have given him safe haven.
Look, I think Saddam Hussein has or had, we don't know quite yet, a huge sense of self-importance. He saw himself as the second Saladin, as the man who was going to somehow change the Middle East. And I suspect that he would rather die than live out his life as a pauper or as a pensioner in Syria or Libya or some other country. And I mean, literally, I think he sees himself in a warrior tradition. He was a very tough man. In his youth, he was wounded and crossed the Syrian desert, recovered in Egypt, came back, participated in a coup, killed a lot of people personally over the years. This is much closer to the Hitler model, where you commit suicide in the bunker, or you go down fighting, or you do something. I suspect they were trying to meet to figure out one more way to try to get at the Americans. Remember also that Saddam is a man who's totally out of touch with reality.
Well, you talk about one more way. I mean, this has been extraordinary since day one of this war. We all thought that there'd be chemical weapons used. Nothing. Nothing was used against our troops. I mean, our troops, just moved quickly up to Baghdad. There's been virtually no resistance. The most disorganized Iraqi army has been sniping at our military, but it doesn't seem like he's ever had command and control since day one.
But it's very possible that nobody close to him has ever told him that the reports he's gotten are in a fantasy land, because he had a pattern over the last 30 years of shooting people who gave him bad news. And so there's been a very limited number of people who would tell him the truth, because they usually get killed.
Which is consistent with what happens on Iraqi TV, because as we watch the war and watch what's going on and see, for instance, our troops taking over the airport outside Baghdad, they're reporting great success, that they're winning the war.
Rick Tyler said to me this afternoon, he said, this is the minister of misinformation. And I think that's exactly right. This is a guy who's told by Saddam, go out and say we're winning. Now, his choice is you can get shot, or you can go out and say you're winning. He goes out and says, hey, we're winning. At least he lived another day.
But wouldn't you have thought that one of his close leadership would have hit the ground running? I mean, nobody left him in that inner circle.
Well, I think the inner circle...
At least that we know.
Well, I think the inner circle is like Chemical Ali, who understands that he's a war criminal. I mean, all of these people are torturers, murderers, killers. All of them are going to face, I think, the potential of being executed or spending the rest of their life in prison. And so this is sort of the last stand of a dictatorship that has been stunningly brutal, as we're discovering more and more with each passing week. I don't think they have any place they can go. And I think if it totally collapses in the next 48 or 72 hours, you'll see them flee individually, because literally there'll be nothing left to do then. But I think up to the last minute, they're desperately hoping that France or Russia or the UN or something will somehow save them. And in the past, it has happened. I mean, they've been in very tough situations before, and they've managed to survive. But I think with every passing day now, it becomes harder and harder to believe that. And I suspect part of what's happened is the people we had hoped all along would begin to call us and talk to us really were frightened that their family would be killed, that the secret police would kill them. And now they've come to the conclusion that that phase is over, and I suspect there's a flood of information beginning to develop for the American forces.
You know, I was surprised that he wasn't even sort of bolder. We had a few videotapes that were released that were played on Iraqi TV, but I'm surprised under your theory that he didn't come out and act bolder, more defiant to the world. I mean, it was almost sort of pathetic. He's gone underground, and we may have hit him with 4 bunker bombs.
Well, again, it's like Hitler. I mean, Hitler had a huge bunker complex. He hid most of the time, spent most of the time very deep underground. I think they had prepared for this war a long time. I think they thought they could outlast us. They had built very, very deep facilities. A former fellow who was in the Speaker's office when I was there, Colonel Dave Perkins, I watched on Fox last night about 1:30 in the morning as they arrived, as his brigade arrived at that presidential palace. And you looked around and you began to realize, you know, we are literally walking on the ground that they thought we'd never touch. And you just have to believe that every hour that goes by, that the dictatorship gets weaker and weaker, and more people decide this is over, and they either flee or they hide or they take off the uniform, but that their capability of surviving goes down literally every single hour that this is going on.
Mr. Speaker, thank you on this night when we have breaking news coming out of Iraq. We're going to go to Rita Cosby with more. Rita?
Hi, Greta. Well, I can just give you some more details of what I'm getting from intelligence officials and a number of other U.S. officials. As I pointed out, they got at least 3 pieces of intelligence on the ground, meaning at least 3 different sources. I'm told now that a number of that information came from special operations teams, as we know, which have been in the ground in Baghdad, I've been told, since at least June. Additionally, this is really fascinating information that apparently at the time of this meeting with the Iraqi leadership, including what sources say they're almost certain Saddam Hussein and his 2 sons were present, they were talking about escape routes to get out of the country, which is pretty interesting. That signal intelligence, U.S. has some incredibly sophisticated eavesdropping material, and they were actually able to pick up at the time of this leadership meeting at this house in Baghdad that they were actually, this is amazing, they were actually gathered in about 4 to 6 meters together, standing next to each other at the time that these bunker busters came just pounding down. And at the time, they were able to intercept that they were speaking about escape routes out of the country, talking about different particular routes that they could get out of Baghdad and possibly out of the country.